Hi-ho, this is Kermit the Frog, and you're listening to a brand new episode of the 12A podcast brought to you by the Four-Eyed Radio Network. Yay! If you would like to check out more shows, go to foureyeradio.com. Yay!
Hey there, Eric here from Socially Awkward Studios, and this Four-Eyed Radio presentation is being proudly brought to you by Raven Designs, illustration and design that fit your personality. For samples and inquiries, visit ravencruise.com.
Hey everybody, this is Jeff, and I am still working off my Oscar hangover.
Hey, and this is Steve, and let me tell you about my long day I just spent with Jeff.
Ooh.
Welcome to the 12A podcast, where you're going to learn about movies, entertainment, and a lot of other cool stuff. And now, here are two guys who think winning an Oscar has something to do with hot dogs. Jeff and Steve.
Yeah, hot dogs, hot dogs.
I like myself a good all beef hot dog.
Yeah, all right. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. We have a great show. We're very excited. We're pumped to be here. The Oscars were last week. We're working on a film. There's just so much going on.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. Yeah, there was a lot. Jeff and I both took the day off, actually, and
Yes.
spent most of the day together working on this film.
We denied ourselves a paid job so that we can work on our non-paid job that we really enjoy.
Yeah, and it was wonderful. And I'll tell you, Jeff, we didn't get to talk much at the end of our day because we both split ways, but
Right.
it was just like the best working environment ever. And if anything were to ever happen to our wives, you and I totally have no problem living together. I mean, we lived together before once, but it was a great working environment while we're doing this editing, and then we both have things going on our laptops. Then we had this little conference call thing with one of our clients, and it was just a really good, productive day. And I was like, man, I really, really like this. This is how I want my office work to be.
I know, and I had somebody cook me lunch, which I thought was pretty terrific.
So, is there a reason you guys didn't tell me about the day off thing?
Well, I guess we shouldn't have brought it up.
I could have taken it off.
So anyways, on Netflix,
Yeah,
I was watching
right.
I see how it is.
Yeah. Well, we didn't need the sound guy yet. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
We learned that part of the editing
Yeah,
process.
I got you.
So
Once we get to the point where we need you, Sam, we'll bring you in.
then you'll be.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I was working and making money so I can take the ladies.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
Spends a little bit more than the dollar I see.
know.
That's right.
And I will say,
I'm up to $2.
no. I will tell you. So we had our 12A Oscar party for cast and crew and people
it was
who helped
great.
out with the production stuff.
It was great.
And I will tell the ladies out there that Sam looked very, very nice.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, because we all dressed up and Sam looked very sharp.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've got a really good picture of him up on our Facebook right now. It looks like he's trying to take away with our life-size Oscar. Like, he thinks he deserves this for sound editing of a podcast or something, maybe. I don't know, but yeah.
I was fantasizing. What can I say?
But the guy looks good in the vest.
He does look good in the vest.
Yeah, there's two
thank
guys
you.
that showed up. Actually, both were named Sam, in fact, now that I think about it.
That is weird.
They were
isn't
both
it?
the vest wearers, but they
right.
both rocked them, so yeah. So,
Cool. Well, thanks.
yeah.
It was fun. It was a great party.
Yeah.
You did a good job once again, and
Nice.
good turnout, and it was great.
Yeah, no, we want to keep up in the game with this one, so we're already kind of throwing ideas around for next year's
Right,
party.
yeah.
So it'll be a lot of fun. I tell you what, though, I was beyond entertained with this year's Oscars, and it was because of the host.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was because of Ellen completely. And I think this one, since 2001 or 2002 or something, was like the highest, rated Oscars.
Yeah, it's been a while, yeah.
It's been a long time. But man, did she ever have it going. And she's just highly entertaining anyways.
Yeah.
But I was looking forward more to her when she was out there than any of the acceptance speeches or who won this. Some of the stuff, it was just great. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, there were some really great moments, but it's tough to really, looking back on it, it's not as fun as I sort of thought it was while we were there, because if you think about, one of the highlights was the selfie picture, right, with all of the celebrities. But that started off as a really terrible gag. It was Ellen wanting to do some self-promotion and getting her and Meryl Streep. And if it would have ended at what it had planned to be, it would not have been interesting at all.
Right.
What made that moment really cool was all the celebrities that were around that were excited to jump in and be a part of it. And that's what made it really good. I didn't think her opening monologue was all that great. And I loved the pizza stuff, which was just sort of off the cuff and just happened to work.
And I think the reason that those two specific things worked the most, and what I loved the most about them, was that you saw all these famous faces interacting in these different ways than you usually would. You know, you saw Brad Pitt handing out pizza to other actors and actresses. You know, you saw all these just people jumping around behind her to get into a selfie. You know, Jared Leto's running from far away, and Liza Minnelli was in the back trying to get into the picture. And so, yeah, and
they sort of build this community within these people that you know. And so when they're doing like the pizza thing, like when they're like, oh, hey, let's get Harvey Weinstein. He's got some money, you know, you can pitch in, you know, some stuff like that. It really feels like a community. And so like that stuff was really cool. But like, yeah, I didn't think the opening monologue was real great. The acceptance speeches were a lot of the video montages I thought were really like the hero montage the Bette Midler song after the tribute was sort of like, all right, come on, let's move on and stuff like that.
The only song I liked was who sang the Wizard of Oz one? Was it Pink?
Yes.
Pink.
Yeah, that was good.
Was really good.
That
one was good. But the rest of them, no. And I agree. And the acceptance speeches weren't even the people who were announcing the awards and stuff. I wasn't. And I don't know if it's because I felt like whenever Ellen was out there, she was involving so much of the crowd so well, and she was doing not that necessarily maybe her, monologues or her sayings were so great, but she does really well with involving other people, and so you get to see this different side of these other actors and actresses.
That was yes,
and so that stuff was so great that I think maybe that made the acceptance speeches even worse or something, a little bit there.
What's interesting too is the going back to the pizza thing. The guy who delivered the pizza was not an actor.
No.
And he had no idea when he showed up that's what he was going to do. So how great is that? You go to work at a pizza job, delivery guy, whatever, and here you are on stage in front of millions and millions of people. Mm-hmm. You're handing out pizza to all these actors and actresses and these well-known people. Had no idea he was going to do that when he started that night. And it just turned into one of these things, like Jeff says, where it sort of morphed into something that was really cool.
Right.
And he got a great tip out of it, and I think he was even on Ellen's show.
Yeah, Carly just sent that to us. If you get a chance, watch that. It's pretty cool.
So it's really, cool for him. You know what I mean? Here's a guy whose life was changed, really.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Just because of something that just sort of fell into place.
Yeah,
really.
Totally random thing that she wanted to do. And she ended up giving the tips to him.
Right.
Plus a little bit more. He ended up getting out with $1,000.
I know. How awesome is that?
Yeah, and he said that his favorite actress was Julia Roberts, so he got to serve pizza to Julia Roberts.
Yeah, how cool is that for him? I mean, that was a really neat moment. Mm-hmm. I didn't know at the time that he wasn't an actor. I'm thinking, they just set this up. But then we learned later that it was just an ordinary dude.
Yeah. He was just the closest pizza joint for them.
Exactly.
It was,
And how cool would that be?
I read up a little bit on it. Apparently, they deliver, the Ellen Show actually calls them in a lot, for the writers and stuff. And that's actually who he thought it was. He thought he was just delivering to the writers. And so he
was used to that, and it wasn't a big deal. And then all of a sudden, he's on the stage.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was cool. Sam, what was your sort of takeaway from the Oscars?
I kind of agree. I lean more towards Steve's side. I think Ellen did a great job. Towards the end, I thought some of her stuff was a little bit weaker. Mm-hmm. But it was like she didn't... Like a lot of times she pretended like she didn't know what was going on, which I thought was pretty funny because you're the host of this massive show that's been around forever and you absolutely know what's going on. But she did such a good job pretending sometimes like she didn't. She comes out in her big dress, and it's over already, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, that was funny. Yeah,
and it was funny because I don't want to say she disrespected the show, but she pretended like the show wasn't important enough for her to know what the heck was going on.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Which is, that show's so snobby sometimes, for lack of a better word.
Right.
It was kind of neat to have somebody who pretended like they didn't give a crap.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though they did. That was just part of the bit.
Right.
And so a lot of times, people will come out and monologue and make fun of people in the audience, and so she kind of did that same thing too. But she sort of carried that theme a little bit more throughout the show.
Right.
So from that standpoint, I thought it was interesting. And to your point, Jeff, I think some of the things they decided to do morphed into something much better than they had planned.
Right.
And so I think because there was kind of that spontaneous.
There's a acceptance.
It was a spontaneous thing that went on.
Yeah.
It was like it's kind of like improv. What happens in improv? You start something, you have no idea, and then it balloons into this thing, and it's just magical.
Yeah.
And so I think part of that was kind of neat, that the magic happened, even though they may not have planned for it to be that cool or whatever.
Yeah, and Ellen, for someone who doesn't have a background in improv, hers was primarily stand-up, but she learned a lot, I'm sure, through her TV shows. So this was very organic for her. Was her ability to work off the cuff on things and just go with them, like you were saying, and especially to be, in the audience. I think you were pointing out the best part of it, that she tried to run the show from the audience as opposed to on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Added a really fresh dynamic to it, and plus the whole pizza thing for her to roll with that.
Right.
And I thought the best part of her opening monologue was her riff with Jennifer Lawrence tripping on the way in.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything, and then she just keeps coming back to it, and she knows
fun.
Jennifer Lawrence can take it.
Right.
But that wasn't written.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
that wasn't
she wasn't
prepared
reading
before
those
that
things.
day, and that was the best part of the opening monologue. So I
Yeah.
think her best stuff was her ability to figure out stuff on the fly.
Yeah.
It was interesting too, because as they were handing out pizza, the lady who was head of the Motion Picture Association or whatever she was, I can't remember her exact title, came on and started talking about the thing that they're building, and she was all
Right.
serious, and I could hear people in the background chuckling because they're handing out pizza. You know what I mean? So that was like another thing she did, where here's this lady who has this serious moment, and she's trying to talk of all the great
new
things the
building
film
and-
industry is doing, and Ellen wrecked it because now they're handing out pizza and people are watching that and laughing
Yeah.
instead of listening to her.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, it was a little bit anti-establishment, and I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and then Ellen came out and she was like, "Well, it's hard to top that, but
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And that's great. And if you ask, one of the popular hosts like Billy Crystal, like that's the thing that he's always like. To him, that's what being an Oscar host is all about: is finding those little moments to throw in the little reaction.
Yeah.
To be able to react to what's going on really makes a good Oscar host. So, yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
So overall, I really enjoyed it. Any major shockers as far as awards went or anything? Or
No, and
not really?
that's the thing. It's been a while since there's been a real big shocker. And I'm trying to remember. I remember Crash winning Best Picture was a huge. That was a big shock. And I don't know. It feels like it's been a few years since there's really been. Holy crap! I did not see that coming at all.
Right.
Which it makes me feel good in my Oscar pool, but you sort of
You sort of want
to get I sort of feel like we need reminders that this is really an organic thing and not just a popularity contest. It's not who everybody expects it to be. Something that really kind of surprises us. I really want another one of those.
Well, yeah, I just looked it up for the 78th Academy Awards, and Crash was going up against Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, that was the
and stuff,
thing. I
and
remember
wow,
going into it.
so-
I remember going into it checking Brokeback Mountain because I thought for sure that was going to win. And when they called Crash, I was really surprised. I remember one of the other ones was Tom Hanks losing to the guy who is in Life is Beautiful. The guy who ended up standing on Roberto Benigni, I think. And he ended up like jumping up and walking across the seats and making that memorable. But yeah, that's what I want next year. If I can sort of make a wish for next year, it's a big surprise.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Like, even though I chose Matthew McConaughey, I was like, just give it to Leonardo. Just surprise me, Let's just
that would have
do
been
it.
really
that
fun.
would have been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can agree with that. Yeah. So.
Yeah. If you could make one wish for next year's Oscar, what would your wish be?
Well, if I could, that big surprise thing, I guess, would be it. Like, I want something like the Best Picture. Like, there was no question in my mind that it was going to be 12 Years a Slave.
Right.
Like there's so many of those. All the editing and sound editing ones that was going to go to Gravity. There was, I don't know. Like, I want to see like a small guy win something big or something sometime. Or just some totally different story. I'm really glad that they do like the short films and the short animated and the documentary ones and stuff like that, because it kind of brings to light something that otherwise nobody's ever really honestly going to watch or see.
Right.
So that's really cool. But yeah.
Well, on that note, a couple of years ago, it was cool. It was sort of the expectation going in, but when the Hurt Locker beat Avatar, it was it was like the $16 movie beat the $1 billion movie,
right?
And it was his ex-wife, So that was
there's so
really
many great
fun
punch to it there. Yeah.
So Sam, if you had a wish for next year's Oscars, what would your wish be?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've really thought about it. I don't know if it goes along with necessarily the surprise thing, but I kind of wish some of the smaller films would get more props.
Yeah.
Somehow. Because, you always have, anytime the season comes up and they give you the list, there's people that get snubbed. I mean, Tom Hanks got snubbed this year or whatever. But the films that are always sort of talked about are the big name films, the films with the big actors in it, the films that have some kind of social message.
Right.
Or, some lady shaves her head bald and, all of a sudden, okay, she's going to get the Best Actress Award or whatever.
Right.
And it's like sometimes I feel some of the smaller films that have some of the same elements don't always get recognition.
Right.
Because they get dumped into either Best Independent Film or something like that. And I don't really know a way around that because people want to see the big name actors and actresses, and they want to be taken away in Fantasyland with these big films, and I totally get that. But sometimes I feel like the smaller films that have just a powerful message often don't get much attention at Oscars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will say to the Academy's credit, they have been aware of that and have been working on, and so they had a bit of a changing of the guard a few years ago, and they started changing things.
Yeah.
And one of the changes that they made was expanding the Best Picture nominee from 5 to 10.
Okay.
And a big reason for that was to do exactly what you were saying, because I mean, last year Beasts of the Southern Wild, which was this, it was like a $50,000 movie made in Louisiana by nobody.
Right.
Got a Best Picture nomination. And, this year it was Philomena and Nebraska and a couple of these smaller films. So I'm glad that they're at least helping to sort of bring to the plate those things. And they also sort of introduced ranked choice voting to sort of bring more of those to the top. But I haven't really noticed much of a change. But
no, it's a good point. I don't know how many people thought Nebraska really had a chance.
Yeah, no,
even though it was there.
Yeah.
I mean, good for them that it's there.
Yeah.
That's a start. But I don't know if anybody thought, Nebraska really has a chance for Best Picture or something. It's like, no.
Yeah.
They're on the they're on the list. Good for them, but so I don't know. I don't know how to fix it. It's a tough problem.
Yeah.
And I totally get people want the bigger films. They go and see the bigger films mostly. So
right.
But if they could figure a way to work that in even more, I think that would be just better overall experience. But
yeah. All right. Cool.
Beautiful. All right. We want to talk a little bit about our current project we have going on?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah, why not?
So, was it 2 weeks ago now that we filmed this? Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, 2 weeks ago, we spent an entire Saturday filming this short romance movie. I guess I wouldn't necessarily say comedy, more drama. So there's a little bit of light comedy. We can't film. I don't think we could ever in our lives make a movie without there being some kind of comedy in it. No matter how hard we might try.
Yeah.
Like
we got with the Tenant.
The Tenant, and then the Mentor.
The Mentor, yeah.
That was the other one I was thinking of. So I guess there is, but if we have any kind of a relationship though in it, there's some kind of comedy.
Yeah.
And mainly it's if you and I are in it too, I think. Because we weren't in the Mentor or the Tenant.
Well, the thing, yeah, that is true. That's very true. Yeah. How do we make it a non-comedy? Let's both of us stay out of it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, it's interesting that I think, speaking of the Oscars, one of the things I hate about the movies that sort of seem to sift to the top of that stuff is that they want to get comedy as far away from the winners as possible, which is part of the reason Wolf of Wall Street didn't do well, and also I think part of the reason American Hustle didn't do well.
Because
there's just too much comedy. And I think it's a big reason why Silver Linings Playbook didn't do better last year. I mean, I loved Argo, and I was okay with it winning. But looking back, it's like, what movie do I remember more? Silver Linings Playbook is going to be more with me. But so I really hate that about the Academy, because it's. Yeah, if you really want a full, well-rounded movie, you don't have to make it as dramatic. You don't have to do the Precious route, right?
Oh yeah.
You don't have to take all this crap and say, how crappy can I make somebody's lives? And I know what I hated about that was I was in speech and drama when I was in high school, and when I went to these speech tournaments, that's what you saw these kids who were trying to win do. They would say it was always like, how crappy can I make this person's life? And you just hated to listen to it. And that's so not, life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and to do that is this really full, well-rounded, there's comedy and there's drama and there's all these different elements to it. Mm-hmm. And that's actually one of the things I, really liked about this project, especially getting to rewatch a lot of that stuff today. There's scenes in it where you're laughing with them. There's scenes where you're hurting and really feeling uncomfortable with them. And then there's scenes where that's very endearing and heartwarming. Mm-hmm. And then there's other scenes where maybe you're a little nervous and on edge, and you feel that sort of discomfort that they feel. And that's what a good movie should be. It should be a well-rounded movie.
Right. Yeah. Watching it today like we did so many times as we're going through and thinking about edits and how we want the end product to be, it's so great to watch it because you really see the relationship grow and the ebb and flow of it and everything like that. The very first scene, I think, is right around 5 minutes long. Mm-hmm. And we were talking some to Carly about this too. Like, you don't want to cut anything out of it though. Even though there's little parts where it might be an awkwardness, like that's exactly how it's like on a first date. Yeah. There's that awkwardness, there's that silence there that needs to be there that helps grow it. And so it worked really well. So I totally agree with you. Like, you have to have a little bit of that comedy, and there's got to be some of the argument. Because that's just life. That's just all there. So I completely agree with your Oscar statement too, though, that it is sad not to see more because there are some comedies out there that are just so well written. I would love to see a comedic best actor or something like that too. That would just be amazing to me, because that honestly is talent to really get a good comedic actor.
Yeah, they should have best action actor and best comedic actor, and
that's right,
along with some of the other categories.
That's right.
So action isn't winning anything either.
No, action's not winning. Yeah. Sorry, that's never going to happen. Yeah.
Did you ever hear the Will Ferrell comedian at the Oscar bit?
No,
I'm trying to. Can you hear this, Sam? I'm trying to pull it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
This was Will Ferrell at the Oscars a few years ago.
A comedian at the Oscars, the saddest man of all. Your movies may make millions, but your name they'll never call. I guess you don't like laughter, and a smile brings you down. A comedian at the Oscars is the saddest, bitterest, alcoholic clown.
So cool.
Jack Black! Will Ferrell! What did you think when you took off your pants and you ran around that racetrack and you did that silly dance? What did you think?
I thought they'd love me.
What did you think, that you could change their wicked game? Did you think when you made Anchorman they wouldn't call it lame? What did you think?
I thought I'd get to have dinner with Jeremy Irons.
We may not win tonight, but we shall win the ultimate fight. And I'm not speaking in a metaphor, I mean literally. I am going to fight the nominees.
I like the way you're talking. I'm sick of this crap.
Leo, you think you can date supermodels and win awards? I'm gonna elbow you in the larynx.
Ryan Gosling, you're all hip and now. Well, I'm gonna break your hip right now.
Hey, Peter O'Toole, you're all legendary in English. I don't care. I'm gonna beat you down with my Nickelodeon award.
Mark Wahlberg, where are you? I won't mess with you. You're actually kind of badass. Once again, I hope we're cool. You are very talented.
And Helen Mirren, you are just hots. What party are you going to?
Fellas! Jack John C. Reilly!
This madness must stop. There is no need to fear. You can have your cake and eat it too. Just look at my career. I didn't cry the blues. I didn't pick silly fights. I chose to be in both boogie and Talladega Nights. So, don't just be clowns, because then you're just forced. Mix it up and Oscars shall be yours.
He's right. I'm going to reread that script about the guy who gets lead poisoning and then sues a major corporation. There's not a laugh in there. Yes.
And I'm going to take that project about the guy with no arms and legs who teaches gangbangers Hamlet.
Now we're talking.
I'm going to lose 40 pounds to play Ralph Nader.
I'm going to do that gay coal mining film with James Spader.
So Anthony Hopkins, you can laugh, but someday soon you'll see me. Helen Mirren and an Oscar will be coming home with me. Helen Mirren will be coming home with me.
Yeah, that is great. But yeah, how true is that?
Yeah, and how funny is it that they let them do that at the Oscars, where that is the truth?
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, kind of like poking fun at themselves and whatever.
Yeah.
So.
They still didn't win anything though.
Yeah, no, they said no.
But at least they got their message across.
Yeah.
Their message is out there. Nobody listened, but
So I mean, back to the thing. I actually haven't even seen this yet, so
No.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. Maybe
Good.
doing some audio
Yeah.
work on there. We'll see.
We
and,
talked about that today because we were like, we need a set of eyes that was not involved in the filming, the recording,
Right.
anything of this. And so we brought up your name though, Sammy, because we do want you to help with. We have some ideas on the audio for the post production, but then we thought, you know what? Let's get his take on how this thing is going to piece together and everything. And I don't want to give away too much because it is almost even today things changed in it than what we originally thought.
Yeah,
so it's kind of an alive thing.
Yeah.
And how it's growing. We're working on multiple blogs talking about the behind the scenes of how this was created and how it is being created right now. So look for that too. When this podcast comes out, there is a blog up that is on 12aproductions.com. That's kind of our first behind the scenes one, but we're going to have multiple ones to just talk about the entire process of how we work, but maybe for anybody interested out there, how to, make a short film or type of people to work with or what you might need and what some of the stumbling blocks are. I mean, this thing changed. We had about 10 days worth of rehearsals. We only rehearsed like 3 times in that 10-day period.
Right.
But after every one of those rehearsals, something drastically changed. That we had to be on top of. And so it's been a very interesting kind of roller coaster ride. But I'm really liking the end result. We left today with Jeff's got one scene and I've got one scene that we've got to do the edit on, and it's going to be our tough ones, to be honest. But I like where it's at right now. That's cool. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing it myself, actually.
Yeah, and just working on the blog post to some of your points, Shireen asked me the night before we filmed it, what is this about? Like, she knew it was an online, romance sort of, but, what's it about is what she asked me. And so I started thinking, contextually, what is this about? And I told her, which was the same thing that we had been discussing all along. But at the end of the shooting day, that's not what this is about at all. And it's through the discoveries that we made improvising through this thing. And working on this blog post, these blog posts that Steve was telling you about, I was thinking through the process that we have and why we would decided to use improvisation is a huge part of this. And a part of it is just because that's a lot of what we do. We did HOA police that way, and we really like to use improvisation. But and a part of it too is just because we wanted to focus on characters and story and how to construct this and work collaboratively on those things. But on a more project specific level to the story, we're looking at two different webcams through these people who are having a relationship, and so we shot this simultaneously. And for me, there's a lot of, there's a danger of making it too structured and rigid with script that you pour hours over saying the right words, choosing the right words, and making the right context be behind the right words, and making everything so sharp and focused and always on task that it loses a lot of its reality. And like you were saying earlier, when you have a real discussion like a first date, there's all this stuff that's just sort of all over the place, and you're sort of just looking to see what sticks at first. And then as things kind of progress, you're just sort of playing off of that.
Right.
And so we didn't want something that was so loose that you can't follow. So we focused on sort of having an overall structure, and so we discussed story structure and plot points and act structures and act breaks and stuff like that. But and then we focused on keeping time limits on things and stuff like that. But at the same time, by doing this improvisational sort of freeform way, to me there was a very organic way of discovering things within the scenes and expressing emotions and just playing off of what was really there. Yeah. So that was a lot of that. Yeah.
It was. No, and we even shot this whole thing like from beginning to end so that we weren't jumping scenes. So by the end of the day, we were at the end of the characters' relationships where we wanted it to be.
Right.
So it made it really great. Our last scene, I started tearing up some because their relationship, I had watched this relationship happen, everything so molded. And so the last scene, there's this amazing monologue and just the look in the eyes and everything else that, like, we did one take on that and that was it.
Yeah.
And I still love that scene. Yeah, it turned out wonderfully. But we had spent the whole day with these two characters improvising, and they had been improvising during rehearsals already for the previous week. That the bond was just there, and you couldn't write that. Even if you did write that, if you're a really really good actor, you're going to go off the script and you're going to make it as natural as possible. And this was just so natural. Like I was like, I don't want to say anymore. Okay, I start giving it away. Yeah,
I was going to say there is one of the. Any actor will tell you this, but even one of the cool things about improv is that you are in the moment, right? You can't, when you go up on stage and you're part of a scene in improv, you can't really have any preconceived notions about what the scene's going to be like, because if you try and take it in that direction, you're going to ruin something.
Right. So
you really have to be in the moment and react to what people are giving you.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so there's I want to say there's a book about truth and comedy, and the truth part of that the truth part of that is you're reacting to something on the spot. You're reacting to what a person is giving you at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You're not remembering something that you took up with you on stage, because if you do that, you're going to kill the scene, right?
Right.
And it's that discovery that Jeff talked about that is a really cool aspect. If you guys are listening and you've never done improv, I know it can sound scary, but the discovery of that is so amazing when you get on stage and you finally create a scene with people and you had no idea what the scene was going to be about except a one-word thing in the beginning. Mm-hmm. That whole discovery is amazing, and it can really help in a lot of ways in our individual lives. Like you are listening to me right now, and you're going to respond to what I'm saying. We didn't rehearse this in the beginning. You know what I mean? It's not like we have a script. where I say
Right.
this and then you guys
Right.
say that, and then and that's what we do every day. We hear what people say and we respond. Now, there's still a place for having a script and structure and all. I'm not
yeah,
saying we just
absolutely.
get rid of it. But the beauty of it is being in the moment and responding to what you're given is an amazing experience, and the discovery comes out of that. And then a lot of times what happens is you get something more than what the script had.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where the magic is. And that's the cool part of it for me. That's why I can't wait to watch this.
Yeah. No, it's great. We even this podcast, Jeff and I no longer share notes for it to give it more of that discovery type feel. So whatever Jeff might be talking about, I'm hopefully more excited, or maybe I'm more bored with it. I don't know. And vice versa, and to add to that. And you're right though, Sammy, the discovery. And then when you get to that end of that scene, when you're in improv, or even if you're just watching it grow, there's such a satisfaction of seeing, wow, that's what we just created, or wow, I watched that just get created, and there's a satisfaction you just can't find anywhere else with that.
Yeah, there was this moment when we finished that last scene where even just before even going into shooting that scene, I still had that idea that this project was about something different and was going to end completely differently. But at the end, there was this very brief moment. Pardon me. At the end of that, right as Courtney and I sort of finished the scene and we're waiting for a cut, where we were all just there. I mean, everybody on set. I mean, the two of us in acting, but the three of you behind the scenes as well. And the great thing about that is, you can't take credit for it because it's something that's bigger than you. And that's one of the exciting things about being something as a part of that, is you really have to appreciate how big it is, right, and the collaboration that's involved with that. Because at the end of that scene, even though it was sort of a monologue, it wasn't to the credit of one person at all. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can say that if there was a writer and a director and an actor, and you can kind of say, oh, okay, maybe just those three, but it wasn't that at all. I mean, that monologue wouldn't have come about unless the other person responded in a certain way, and you and Carly weren't pushing us in a certain direction, and there's just that moment of like pure satisfaction to knowing that something was just created unique and different and not what we expected, and we were all a part of it, Mm-hmm. Just to be a part of it as an artist, that's about as fulfilling as it gets.
Yeah. No, I'd hate to talk more about it because I'm going to give away too much, because even the other actor being silent in that scene was giving to that scene, because if that actor had said something, it could have ruined it or dragged it out, or it could have changed it completely. I mean, the choice of being quiet sometimes is the perfect choice.
Because it is a choice.
Because it's a choice.
Yeah, because I posted on Facebook the day or the day after, something like that, that good improv is choosing not to do something as much as it is choosing to do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, her work in that is just as strong, valid, important as his was.
Yeah.
So
completely agree.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of going back to our improv days, there were a lot of times where I was sort of the guy in the middle. I don't want to call it the center, but there was so much craziness going on around me.
Right.
And I was just sort of the anchor in the middle. And I didn't a lot of times say things, or and I know you guys did the same thing too, but it seemed like for whatever reason I assumed that role a lot more.
Yeah, no, because I was all over the place. I was uncontrollable at first. Yeah.
But it was I have to say, even though I wasn't the one that got all the laughs all the time or whatever, being in that and witnessing everything that was going on, because you still witness it even when you're on stage. You're trying to do a performance, but if you're there and you're trying to absorb everything so that you can be part of the scene,
right,
in a true way.
Right.
It was so amazing. So even from a person who is silent, right? There's that two-way street. Like, I'm giving you the silence, but you're giving me all the craziness. Yeah. And we're both in a weird way reacting to one another. right?
Right.
And it's just as amazing for me to be there sort of in the center of all the craziness as I'm sure it was amazing for you to be crazy
Right.
and doing all the stuff. So it's
Right.
like, if I would have tried to, and I'm not trying to brag, I'm just saying as an example, like if I would have tried to assert some kind of will that I had where I'm going to go out and I'm going to make a joke now,
Right.
it would have just destroyed everything.
Right.
Right? And it would have put the focus on me, and that's not what you want to do. So, like, being silent can be a very powerful. People say, well, you're just sitting there, you're not doing anything. It's like, no, you actually are. It's subtle.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's subtle, but you're still part of that. You're still part of that scene. You're still giving energy. You're still, contributing, even though you're not saying something or you're not going crazy or cracking a joke or whatever.
Yeah.
And you need both. You really do. You can't, you have to have the anchor in the scene a lot of times. And so that's cool that was recognized during the filming of this, and it's cool that it played out the way that it did. And, I keep saying I can't wait to see it, and I can't.
Right. Yeah, and to put a little film history context to what you were saying, Abbott and Costello, the great comedy team, Costello refused to perform without Abbott because he knew how strong of a performer Abbott was.
Yeah.
And he understood and he treasured and valued just how much that, because especially back then it was very cut and dry. This person does the punchlines and this person does the setup.
Yeah.
And he couldn't tell his joke wouldn't be as great unless the setup was just as strong.
Right.
And he understood that to the point where he refused to go on without his partner.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And another interesting relationship that was sort of like that was Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder, who were never friends. Their worlds didn't really connect off screen. Like they weren't buddies who ran around and did stuff. But on screen, and they did several movies together. Their chemistry was just unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And I remember hearing Gene Wilder, in retrospect, say that their chemistry was almost like a sexual chemistry, just because he couldn't think of any other word to describe their bond, and how it was. And it was so tight that he would tell this one story, and I can't remember what movie it was. They were standing on the steps of something, and all this craziness was going on around them. And they both started singing this song that wasn't scripted. They were both standing there. The stuff they both felt inspired for whatever reason to sing the song, and they both sang it at the same time.
Wow!
And it's just like to have the thought to sing a song there, and of all the songs in the world to sing that song, and you're both right there on that same page. Like how unbelievable is that chemistry to have?
Yeah.
Yep. So I mean, to sort of put what you're saying in context, it's paramount. It's vital.
Yeah.
And even Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis was like, he even admitted in that his book at Dean and Me that you and I like, Steve, that he was like, I could not have done this without Dean Martin.
Right.
He was like, because I sort of had this punchline mentality and I couldn't have done it without him.
Right.
Yeah, you needed both types. And so they built off of each other.
Yeah.
All right, we could probably go on this forever, but we're like 40 minutes into this thing. We haven't even talked about anything streaming yet. And that's what people probably want to hear. They're like, I could care less. I just need to know how to get to second base. Or give me some film history or something.
So what do you want to do, Steve?
I've got a second base. I'll make mine quick.
All right, second base. Let's go.
Let's do that.
This is a little segment we like to call How to Get to Second Base for $1. Oh, yeah.
The more I hear that intro, the more I want to know how often Sam has got to second base using that voice.
Using that voice.
I lost count after 300. Sorry.
Okay.
This movie in Redbox right now, I'm going to go on record as saying might be the most perfect romantic movie out there.
Wow.
Okay?
I am hooked.
That's a bold statement.
That is a
is a
very
bold
strong
statement.
statement.
That's
You've been
bold.
doing this for over a year. I am.
This movie is going to probably get you beyond second base with the right girl, okay?
Wow.
About Time. Did you ever see this movie?
Yes.
I remember talking to you about this
Yes.
after
I've not
it was
seen
in the
it.
theaters, too.
Yes.
I saw it in the theaters. It's from the same writer and director of Love Actually.
Richard Curtis,
Yeah,
love
Richard
him.
Curtis.
Yes.
So everything about this movie, I saw in the theaters. I saw it again because it's out in Redbox. Everything about this movie I love. I love the soundtrack. I love the musical score that's playing in the subway. Their montage scene they had with their relationship growing. There is an amazing quote at the end that I pulled up too. But what it is, Sam, since you haven't seen it, I'll talk to you. I won't talk to Jeff.
Okay,
today.
I appreciate it.
Right,
Let's lock eyes here.
This, let me look deeply into your eyes.
Yes.
Can you talk to me in that voice again real quick?
Okay, why don't you start?
Okay. So this character finds out when he turns 21 or whatever that he can time travel.
Okay.
And he finds this out from his father.
Sci-fi, I love it already.
Who is Bill Nye. He plays his father, and he's great in this too.
Yeah.
But when he's 21, he just needs to go into a dark place, clench his fists, and think about where he wants to go, and he'll time travel there.
Okay.
And his son, obviously, whatever, but he does it, and it works. So he does what any boy would do who, he gets a girlfriend with this. He goes back, the perfect girl, who is Rachel McAdams.
Which
he goes
might
back,
be a part of all this.
which might be
interesting.
He goes in, and so he has this wonderful relationship. Well, you get the typical comedy of going back and retrying the first time you have sex, the first time you meet each other, and so you see, all
It's
those
like Groundhog
mistakes,
Day.
Exactly, it's
Right.
a Groundhog Day type of thing.
Okay.
But then halfway through the movie, you start seeing there's even more about it, and you realize that this isn't about their romance or anything like that. It's about just how you live your normal day-to-day life. Because he finds out from his father, and it's even about the relationship with his father, that his dad would live an entire day just like it is without changing a thing, and then he'd go back and live it again, already knowing everything that's going to happen, and that second time around, it's a totally different day. So there's this amazing quote. I'm going to read you this exact quote because this is what sold the movie for me and really makes you think about how you're going to live your days. The main character's name is Tim. He says, "And in the end, I think I've learned the final lesson from my travels in time, and I've gone even one step further than my father did. The truth is now I don't travel back at all, not even for a day. I just try to live every day as if I've deliberately come back to this one day to enjoy it as if it was the full final day of my extraordinary, ordinary life." And so that's what he does. So at the end, he stops time traveling. He stops going back in time to this one perfect day. He just lives every day as if it is the day he wanted to live.
Yeah.
So there's just this great story there. And, of course, it's a wonderful romance movie. He gets the girl in the end, and they have all the trials and stuff. There's a great thing where you find out you can't time travel back to before a person was born. So, like, if you have a kid and then you time travel back to before the kid was born, it's possible that when you go back to the present time, that kid's not there, or it's a girl instead of a boy or whatever. So he can only time travel back so far, which runs the risk then you may not be able to save a family member, and that gets into play. So many great things, and they don't ruin time travel. A lot of time travel movies get ruined with the circular stuff. They don't ruin that at all, and it is just a really, really wonderful movie. I probably won't buy it. I don't buy movies anymore, but I will rent this probably a couple more times. This might become, like, if it's on Netflix, it might become like a Love Actually thing where I just watch this, and this becomes our Valentine's Day movie. Yeah. Like Love Actually is our Christmas movie.
Interesting.
It is just that good, in my opinion. So.
How did Tiffany like it?
Oh, she loved it. We saw it in the theater too, and she loved it. It was great. Like, it's great when even in the theater, we've been married for like 8 years now. We'll watch a movie in the theater. The center hand thing isn't always up, but in this one, it's up, holding hands, squeezing at certain parts, like saying I love you, by squeezing the hand type of thing. And that's why it's just, it is a great movie. So I will definitely put this in the top 3. I don't know what the other ones would be in the top 3, but it's going to take a while to beat About Time. So.
Yeah, I will say I saw it in the theaters with Shireen, and we both loved it as well. Mm-hmm. And there's just so much to the movie, like you were sort of saying, like you sort of kind of get to the halfway point, and you sort of feel like I've seen this movie before. I know the beats that it's supposed to hit, and then around the halfway point, it starts going in another direction, and you're like, wait a second,
what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's like this isn't hitting the beats I'm expecting it to beat, because it's not just about the guy-girl thing. It's about the family dynamic. It's about, like you said, the relationship he has with his father. Like, I would totally take my dad had to see. Like, this is a good father-son movie.
Totally, yeah.
And there's just there's so much going on and so much to sort of pull out of this, and sort of like, you know, Richard Curtis is getting older, so you have like a lot of life lessons that you're learning from this like genius storyteller comedian from the past. So it's and again, like we were talking about earlier, there's parts where you're gonna laugh really hard at, and you're gonna cry.
The crazy
and
uncle,
then, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Every time that uncle is in there, it just is hilarious.
Yeah.
But then, you're gonna cry, and then because there's even a great relationship between him and his sister.
Yeah,
you know? And
right?
there's just this amazing bond there. I mean, I could take my sister to this, my wife to this, or my dad to this, and there is going to be something to say about that relationship I have, you know, in this movie.
And your heart's going to feel warm, and you're going to feel uncomfortable, and you're going to feel tense, and it's a full body movie.
Yeah. So there you go. That is my choice, and that'll always be a safe bet for all you guys out there. So
all right, so About Time, and the great thing too is it's such a small movie. Like, it didn't. I mean, it's not a big movie. Not everybody knows about it. So so you'll get even points for picking this little movie that she doesn't know about.
Yeah. It wasn't a big blockbuster thing. And if nothing else, call up Sammy, have him do your voicemail message for you or something. So,
there you go.
Oh yeah.
You got some film history over there?
Let's do some film history. Yeah, let's go.
Play this off. Yeah.
It's time for This Week in Film History.
Yeah, Sam.
Sorry, before you start, I would suggest not using that voice if you want to get a girl.
Oh, right.
The other voice, maybe that voice right there,
not so much.
Not so much.
Okay.
That's my disclaimer.
Okay. Today, in honor of the Oscars and some of the great things that happened, I was going to talk about Hattie McDaniel, who's the first black woman to win a Academy Award. Not just the first first nomination as well, for the movie that both of you guys said last time that you were sick of defending, which was Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Hattie McDaniel wins.
So are you trying to make us feel guilty, Ted?
That was not the perfect. That was not the the purpose. It's just the added bonus.
Okay.
But no, what I wanted to talk about it is just, black film history is such a very important part of our culture now, in terms of acceptance and integration. And I mean, there's even this year there was a lot of Black history things that were involved, and especially in terms of I mean, not just the subject matter of 12 Years a Slave, but actually it's the first movie where the director Steve McQueen won. He was a producer on the film, so he was the first black producer to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. So I was going to talk a little bit about the history of that dynamic and talk about Hattie McDaniel and her win. And Hattie McDaniel was sort of someone who grew up in sort of the performance, sort of vaudeville environment. She ended up doing a bit of comedy and working in radio, and she ended up playing this black maid, and that kind of ended up being her thing, was playing the black maid. And she ended up doing a lot of comedy, and she was actually surprised sort of that she got the role, because she was so known for sort of doing more comedic roles. And even it's believed Eleanor Roosevelt tried to get her maid to play the mammy role, and that Hattie McDaniel eventually won. But she won. She actually, and it was behind the scenes, a fan or a friend of a lot of like big stars like Clark Gable, who was in the movie. But what was interesting is, racial segregation was such a huge thing, especially in the South back then. And it was such a huge dynamic because it was different in L.A. than it was in the South. But the movie had its premiere in the South because it's a big Southern movie, right? Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of controversy about her role, in terms of the book played her role more, well, there was more racial inappropriate stuff going on, like so even some pro KKK stuff that was going on in that movie that they tried to get away from. But then, Hattie McDaniel still had her critics, because as a black actress back then, it's so hard to find a good role, and they typically want you to play some sort of stereotype, which is sort of offensive to your people. So then you get backlash from there, and so it's a really uncomfortable place to be as a black performer wanting to make the work for yourself. You want to find work for yourself, but you don't want it to be degrading, and it's a difficult line to balance. And so you sort of get criticism on both sides of the aisle there. And so when they had their premiere for the movie in Georgia, she actually couldn't go to it because of the Jim Crow laws that they had.
Right.
And so Clark Gable said, I'm not going to go, and she finally talked him into going anyways. And the thing to me is, the one thing I take about her win isn't so much her win, but her perspective in all of it. Because even in L.A., where things were less segregated than they were in the South, you have to understand that when she received the award at the Academy Awards, she was not sitting on the floor with all of the other cast and crew from the movie. She was sitting in a special segregated place in the back of the room, even in LA at that time. So what's really unbelievable to me is I've seen her give her acceptance speech several times, and it's fairly memorable. So you sort of see it come up in these things. But to see her get up there and her acceptance speech was so gracious, and I had it pulled up a little. Oh, here it is. So this was her acceptance speech. Academy of Motion Pictures of Arts and Sciences, fellow members of the motion picture industry and honored guests. This is one of the happiest moments of my life, and I want to thank each one of you who had part in selecting me for one of their awards for your kindness. It made me feel very, very humble, and I shall always hold it as a beacon for anything that I may be able to do in the future. I sincerely hope I shall always be a credit to my race and to the motion picture industry. My heart is too full to tell you just how I feel, and may I say thank you and God bless you. And you see her deliver that, and she's emotional, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I sort of feel like she had every reason to not show up and accept that award because she had to sit in the back of the room. And she had every right to kind of get up there and say, screw you for giving me this honor but shoving me in the back of the room and not even letting me sit alongside my fellow equals who were in the movie with me. Equals, right? Equals. Right. And she was honestly, humbly, emotionally gracious for this. And to me, that says so much about her character and so much about what the civil rights movement was. And the civil rights move, obviously it hadn't, gotten to, the Martin Luther King place that it was in the 60s and all that. Obviously they had such a long, long way to go. But to have that attitude in face of the shit that the rest of the world has given to you is just unbelievable to me. And we sort of live in this world now where, if anybody says anything to hurt our feelings, we sort of feel like we have the right to pout about it. But we don't look to our parents and our grandparents who, or, not necessarily our specific parents or grandparents, but just, people who had to really endure things and have that sort of attitude and sort of rise above their circumstances is really incredible to me. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is, so that happened in 1939. The next win was for a black actor was for Sidney Poitier, Lilies in the Field, 1963. I think that was the next win. There was a couple nominees in the 50s, and that was about it. And if you just want to focus on the supporting role, obviously she won in 1939 for that movie. The next win for a black supporting actress wasn't until Whoopi Goldberg won in 1990 for Ghost.
What's even just more, just amazing about that whole story too is like, I imagine that for anybody who was a fan, not like this televised now or anything, but that was the shocker one, Nobody thought a black person was going to win this award. I
wonder. I don't know.
I feel like that's how it would have been. In 1939, it was such a different world. I just couldn't imagine, and all those people that voted. It was still an Academy, thing. It was voted upon, and so all those people that voted, that's just so amazing. I'm so glad that she did, and that gracious acceptance speech, even though she had to sit in this spot.
Yeah.
And was not involved at all. Just an entirely different world. And it's just amazing because we don't realize.
And if you haven't seen 12 Years a Slave, Lupita's performance, who won, so she's, so this is another great tie-in, is that she was, Hattie McDaniel was the first to win in 1939. And then now here we are for the 2013 awards, Lupita wins for 12 Years a Slave. So, it's a best. She's actually the first black African, because she's from Kenya actually originally, and her performance in that was just incredible. She really did a terrific job in that. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a real fashion police person, but she looked great. She did a really good job with her dress and all that.
Beautiful. Well done, man. We got deep on that one, Jeff. Jeez.
So going back to what we were talking about, sort of the full body emotional experience in today's episode, we got to laugh, we got to cry, we got
the romance, we got everything.
We got everything in it, so we got a full. Yeah.
All right. Well, real quick then. I've got a speed round.
We don't do anything real quick.
I got a speed round. Do you have a speed round?
See, going back to the happy laugh, so we're hitting all the beats. We should win some sort of award for this podcast.
We should. Damn it, we should.
Speed round?
Speed round, but first I got to ask you, have you watched any of Sherlock yet?
No, because my wife and I are working through The Walking Dead, and then once we're caught up on that, because when we
were going to talk about The Walking Dead too this week, and we didn't.
But we didn't.
We're out of time now. Yeah. I have to make a note for next time.
Yeah. So when we binge watch, we tend to have a hard time looking elsewhere. Like we tend to focus on one show and you get through it, and then
totally agree. I got home last week, and The Good Wife is the show that we're binge watching on now, because my wife was like 2 episodes into it after I got home from one of our rehearsals, and we haven't watched a single other thing. Like right now, she's at home. She's like, I hope he gets home soon so we could watch an episode. Like she probably isn't even in bed yet.
Yeah, Shireen's the same way with Walking Dead. Yeah.
All right, let's get on to this speed round. Let's do this and end this on a fun note here.
Speed round!
Right.
All right. I'm going to pop a chocolate-covered espresso bean in my mouth.
Yeah, these are delicious.
I have done my 10 questions for El Jefe based off of our recent movie.
Oh, all right.
Our little romance production thing. Okay. Are you ready, Jeff?
I am ready.
If you could only do one of these for the rest of your life, would you rather act in a movie or direct a movie?
Direct a movie.
Do you find lighting or sound the most frustrating thing during filming?
Oh, gosh. Lighting.
Yeah, okay, all right. Do you like to script lines or improv lines?
Improv lines.
Of course. What one actress would you love to act opposite of in a romantic comedy? First one that comes to mind.
Oh, I thought you were going to give me a list. No, anybody?
Sorry. Yeah, anybody.
Anybody. Okay. Julia Roberts.
Well, that's who I thought too. Julia Roberts. Like for some reason, romantic comedy.
Tina Fey would be great too.
Oh, okay,
Tina Fey would be great.
All right. Think romantic comedy. Now name the first 2 friends that come to mind that you would star in your romantic comedy.
2 friends that
Two friends of yours that would star in a romantic comedy for you that
Steve.
you're directing. Okay.
Obviously. Who would star in it? Steve and Matt Hay did pretty good. I think Matt Hay would do good in a romantic comedy.
I don't know if I want to be in a romantic comedy with Matt Hay, but okay. All right.
Like the guy and the girl?
No, that's fine. If you want to go that route with it, that's cool.
You?
All right. No, next. Sorry,
Okay.
that's okay. Matt Hay, I'll be calling you later.
Yep.
Have
fun with that, guys.
Same first two that come to your mind for a romantic drama.
Oh, for a romantic drama. Me and Courtney.
Okay. Is it possible to do a movie with no comedy in it for 12A Productions?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy listening to your own voice when editing a scene?
I do now a lot more than I did back then, and I think it's because of Sam.
Okay. What one process of the entire filming production process do you hate the most? What's the one you really can't stand? Editing, writing, acting, post, pre, whatever.
Set up for the scene specifically, like setting up, like not while we're shooting, but like setting up, like getting all the technical stuff in order. That's about everything.
What is your favorite process of the entire filming production process?
Either editing or just while we're shooting and being in that moment.
Okay. Beautiful. That was 10.
Oh,
good job. Good job.
All right. Well, you start
to
to work on that Steve Maston, Matt Hay.
romantic comedy that will be.
Matt Hay does have a good voice.
Yeah, he does have a good
Hey,
voice.
he's a good singer.
Okay. All right. Are you ready, Steve?
I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do
Here we
this.
go. All right. Would you rather be Dean Martin or Jerry Lewis?
Dean Martin.
Would you rather be a knight or the court jester?
Court jester.
Which Rescue Ranger character would you be? Chip, Dale, Zipper, or Monterey?
Chip.
Oh, okay, all right. If you were nominated for an Oscar, would you want it to be in visual effects, acting, writing, directing, or producing?
Acting.
Okay.
Wow.
Would you rather star in a movie with Jennifer Lawrence or Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Oh, right. Honestly, right now,
Yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yep. If the three of us, Sam, you, and me, were stuck in a zombie movie, and either Sam or I were bit, would you shoot us in the head or just leave us?
And just leave.
Oh, okay. Batman or Superman?
Batman.
If you were in an action movie, would you want to be the hero who saves the girl or the comic relief sidekick who makes everybody laugh?
Comic relief sidekick.
Okay. If it were possible to cryogenically freeze your body until they found a cure for whatever killed you, would you do it?
I'd do it, yeah.
Okay. When your obsession with Jennifer Lawrence has run its course, any ideas on who the next girl might be?
It has almost run the course, and no one's on the horizon right now.
Okay. All right. In honor of the award season, give an award to Carly for her work on our new movie.
Give her an award?
Yeah, just make up an award.
Oh, just make up an award. Best script supervisor.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about an award for Justin, who helped with all the setup production stuff?
First thing came to mind.
And photography, by the way.
Well, I was going to say best photography. So, but yeah, for all the
Yeah,
behind the
fair enough.
scenes,
Yeah,
all
he
the
did.
behind
Yeah,
the
if you,
scenes stuff. that
yeah,
he
if you
took,
guys haven't seen the photos that Justin took behind the scenes, or for our Oscar thing, man, he's a great photographer.
yeah,
Pick an award for Courtney,
man.
and it can't be Best Actress because that's
No,
just too. You gotta
best flirtatious look.
Oh,
Yeah,
best
there's a couple of really good ones that just
Yeah,
like
one of the funny things was looking back at the footage. I see a lot of dumb decisions that I made within the scene, and one of them was sort of playing myself, where when I hear a compliment, I just sort of tune it out because I don't take compliments well. So she would do things where her character was like flirting with my character, and I would just sort of brush it off, just because that's the way I've always been. And part of the reason I didn't date very much because I wasn't very good at it. I wasn't very good at picking up at those symbols.
Yeah.
I remember there was times in my life where like I would hang out with a girl, and then I'd like go back to my group of friends, and they'd be like, "Dude, Jeff, Jeff, she was totally flirting with you. And I was like, what? For real? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Yes, Courtney, good job. Pick an award for Jeff.
Best monologue.
Okay. All right. Now pick an award for Steve.
Best use of the middle finger.
Okay. All right. That's it. Good job.
All right. Yeah, there's a great Sammy behind the scenes. We have a photo of it, but and we'll end off on this. I was trying to direct Jeff during a scene, and it's just a scene that Jeff's in, and I'm recording it. I'm trying to direct it, and Courtney and Carly and Justin are behind me, and I told them, hey, quiet guys, we're about to record, and they're taking pictures, goofing off. So I just turned around and just flipped them off. I said quiet, and just flipped them all off. And
Justin was there.
Justin was there and got a shot of me.
Yeah,
flipping
it's
up the
going to
bird.
be, yeah.
So,
all right.
So the best bird award goes to
Best
Steve.
bird
Nice.
award goes to
Middle
Steve.
finger.
I like that.
Yes. Good job. All right. Well, good show, guys. It was great.
Thank you
Thanks
for hanging
coming
out.
along. Yeah, absolutely.
We laughed, we cried, we got romantic, and Matt, hey, I'll be calling you.
All right. Cool.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Yeah, have a great week. Yeah, we'll see you next time. Peace out.
The 12A podcast is produced by 12A Productions and distributed by the 4-Eyed Radio Network. To learn more about the podcast or to see what other projects the 12A team is working on, check out 12aproductions.com.
Matt, my phone number is 480-296.
Uh-oh.
Kyle here. If you're like me, then you want all your shows in one spot, or a lot of shows in the same place, or better yet, some really great podcasts all on one network. Visit 4eyeradio.com for all the best shows featured on Blog Talk Radio, Stitcher, iTunes, Mixcloud, and more. 4-Eyed Radio Network, the Fern.